Okay, so the new features. Placing of nodes didn't really change. You go through timeline, place them one by one, or do mirrors. Nothing much different, unless you want to move something. If you press Alt with the color selected, it will move the node selected color on the grid without you having to click and move it back. Like previously, it will tell you that there are already more nodes of this color. With Alt clicked, it just moves them immediately. If you want to quickly scroll through nodes, you press Alt, and it just skips through points that have nodes in them. Otherwise, the nodes are not exactly different from what they were. What is different is lines. Previously, pressing line have started a special long node section. This is no longer the case. Pressing line changes your node indicator to this new one to differentiate immediately what exactly you are placing right now. And clicking just immediately places the rail node on the grid. If you go further down the timeline and click, it will extend. If you go to the previous point, it will extend. If you click in the middle, it will create a junction point and make a curve. If you click somewhere else, it will move that curve to that place. If you click on the junction again, it will remove that junction. If you want to stop the rail from extending, you press B. It changes the indicator of that edge of the rail, and it will no longer accept more extensions. So if you press B here, the rail no longer accepts more extensions. If you want to... okay, so if you place some nodes after the rail's end, nodes of the same color, when you next place the rail node further in, it will not extend. That is because by default, every node blocks the rail from extending to prevent making some huge-ass rails that you don't really want. But if there are only nodes of the same color or opposite color between the rail and its extension, when you place the next rail, you can Alt-click, and it will extend, ignoring everything before it. But only if there are nodes of this and opposite color. Nodes of special colors still prevent it from extending. If you want to move the whole rail, shift it to some other point, you just Alt-click on the position where it's at, and it moves. You can do that anywhere where the rail has an endpoint or a junction point. So, for example, if I go there, it will still shift the rail. It won't work if there are no rail points here. It will just create a junction and only then move it. So to move without creating anything, you just select a place where the rail already has a point and move it. It doesn't matter if it's head or junction, it will move the whole rail by the specified amount. If you want to... a second. Here we are. If you want to recolor the rail, you just select the opposite color and press Shift-click somewhere. The rail gets recolored. Note that this can create impossible situations, for example, green rail and red rail at the same time. The code to prevent that will be way too complicated, and I leave it to the mapper. So if you want to place rails at the same time, it works exactly with nodes. Mirror mode doesn't change at all. You just go, except of course the extensions. You have to make sure that you have the previous rail closed. If it's closed and you have removed the chunk that you've placed previously, you do this, you do this, and rails are placed there. If you press B while you're in the mirror mode, the rail gets closed on both sides. If you want to delete the whole rail, you select the rail that you want to delete and shift-click on it on the starting point. Note that there is no undo, so this is rather sensitive operation. And the reason that I said to shift-click somewhere away from the rail to recolor it was for exactly that point. Because if you shift-click on the exact point the rail starts, it will just delete that rail. So for example, here we have a blue rail and a red rail, and we want to recolor one of them to green. If we click someone here with shift, it recolors this rail. If we click here, it requires the other rail. So whichever rail is closest will get recolored. On the subject of quick navigation, if you are on note mode and you alt scroll, it will scroll through every significant point. Nodes, rail edges, rail junction points, whatever. It will skip all the times between them. If you are on rail and alt scroll, it will only scroll through rail points. If you are on rail and control alt scroll, it will scroll between rail start and end points. It's just to quickly narrow down to some section that you want. Okay, let's place some really long rails. So rails can be extended basically for however long you want. So you go there, 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 there. And you see that here the rail automatically got split. It at the same time contains the tail of the previous rail and the start of a new one. When you extend the maximum duration of 10 seconds for a rail, while you're extending it, it will just create a new rail for you. So then, if you press B on one of the junction points of the rail, it will split the rail, removing the following segment. You'll notice that this rail is now a separate thing, this rail is now a separate thing. If you navigate back to this point and press B again, it will merge the rails again. What else do we have? Alt scroll, yes. Alt click, yes. So to select the nodes without clicking on them, you can do either Alt 1 or 1, Alt 2 or 2, etc. So Alt modifier, while clicking on the number, will select either simple node or rail node. Shift I have explained. Okay, Control. A little bit of a special case. So if you navigate to rail junction point and Control click here, it will split the rail. These are now two rails. There is a tail of one rail and start of another here. What it's most useful for, though, Control clicking, is to creating a junction segments. So for example, here we have two rails. Both of them are broken, so they do not accept new points. If you Control click here and you Control click here, it will create a junction segment rail between them. If there are two conjoined rails at some point, the editor doesn't really know which one you want to edit when you click on them. To disambiguate that, you need to either click forward and back. This means that you want to work on the rail further away, and the next time you click it will work on that. Or backward and forward. This means that you want to click on the way behind you, and it will move that.